Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy. Hello, podsters. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. As Lightyear is hitting cinemas and Disney Plus as well, I guess. I don't know whether it'll be at the same time, but certainly the last films have been just to Disney Plus, but hopefully Lightyear will be in cinemas as well. And of course, we'll be talking Pixar films 2, the sequel. And of course, I'm joined by a man where it's definitely not a good idea to get him wet. Hello, Boaz Dix. How are you, sir?
What the hell is that in a reference to?
Luca.
Oh, yeah. Shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Gremlins. I was like, what the fuck's Gremlins going to do with this? The hell are you talking about?
Oh
all right. Yeah, I suppose.
Good. Boaz has definitely watched the films, by the way. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just literal mind blank there. But, so we went to Comic-Con, didn't we?
Yeah.
MCM Comic-Con in London, and we saw the art director and cinematographer on a Zoom call on one of the events there, and I found it really interesting. Boaz, you found the dream world very interesting, didn't you?
It's a perfect time to nap. I was there light years away. I mean, it was interesting. It's just, man, I hadn't slept at all that night, and it was very technical, really technical. So that requires a lot of concentration. So I don't know.
I dig that shit up. I quite like that. But I mean, Comic-Con as a whole was really cool. Like my first Comic-Con, you've been there for quite a few times, so it's just a great experience with loads of cosplayers.
Yeah, just an unbelievable amount of people. Oh my god, it was like an ocean of human flesh. It was just and styrofoam and cardboard and many other things. Just oh my god. It's unbelievable.
I didn't expect there to be loads of anime cosplays as well. I was like, oh, I have no idea who these people are.
Yeah, there are tons of them. Well, I mean, that's the thing. My brother is pretty into anime, so I got him an anime costume, like Season 5 Eren Yeager or whatever. And he was really chuffed about that. And, there were a few people that recognized him as that character, so he was really chuffed about that. But yeah, Jesus. There was a lot of anime characters, and I think usually there are a lot of big names that come up. Like last time there was Tom Hiddleston and, Charlie Cox, yeah. And people like that. But this time it was you could get autographs with, and do you remember we went into the line to just see who you could get autographs with and pictures with?
Yeah.
And who the hell are all these people? And I think it turns out most of them or all of them were voice actors for animes. I'm I don't know these people. And even if I was a fan of these animes, I don't know these people, They're, I mean, that must be kind of the pain in the ass thing about being a voice actor is well, it's good and bad. I guess nobody's following you around to ask for your picture, so there's anonymity.
Yeah. But everyone knows who Chris Evans is, though, for Lightyear.
Yeah, exactly.
Who voices him.
Yeah.
I mean, are you looking forward to Lightyear?
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
I don't think there's ever been a prequel film which is based on a toy.
Yeah.
You're basing your story to, in the end, have a toy of this person. So that's really interesting,
yeah.
I guess.
Well, I think it's some wonderful world building. This is a movie inside the Toy Story universe that the toy is based off of. So I just like the world building there. You go an extra step. I mean, they could do that with anything. They could have, I don't know, any one of the TV adverts could have a fucking long history, or the Pizza Palace. They could go, the characters in the Pizza Palace, maybe they were also in movies and stuff. Yeah. You can just branch off. that definitely does open up the Toy Story world.
I definitely want to see a Pizza Planet in this film.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
And we obviously have done a Pixar episode before, so don't shout at us if the fact that we haven't picked, Wall-E, the Incredibles films, or what was the other one we done? I can't remember now, but certainly Toy Story 2, there you go.
That was it. Yeah.
On our first episode on Pixar, we did Toy Story 2 versus Wall-E, and then we've done Incredibles for superhero team films and Incredibles 2 for long-awaited sequels.
Okay,
yeah. So if you're wondering why we haven't picked those masterpieces, it's because we've covered them already.
Yeah, exactly. There's no point in, just repeating ourselves.
So my film is Monsters, Inc. I think it's definitely top tier Pixar for me. I mean, there were a lot of other Pixar films that were in contention. Certainly a lot that made me cry a lot. I think with this one, I kind of picked it because, it doesn't make me cry that much, but it's still really awesome. Like Onward, I was an absolute wreck when I watched that one. I mean, it's perfectly fine, that film, but it makes me bawl a lot. Up is another great one. I nearly picked Up, to be honest. Again, that one makes you cry in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's a marvelous film. Yeah,
so certainly those. Oh, Coco. Oh my God. That's, again, a really, really strong Pixar film. But ultimately I went for Monsters, Inc. So what happens in Monsters, Inc.? Well, we're introduced to these characters called Sullivan and Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski!
Yes. Kitty! And they basically work in a factory to get screams from children. So Mike is basically like, I don't know, the secretary or the paperwork guy to Sullivan. He organizes the doors.
He's like his coach, basically.
So Sully and other monsters go through these doors and basically scare children in their beds to create Scream, which is the energy that powers their world, their city. But there's also a conspiracy, a kind of lie they're told as well in this world, that if a child touches you, it will kill you miserably. But you soon learn that is a lie, and a character called Bo escapes.
Boo.
Boo. Kind of ironic, that name. And escapes into the monster world, and Boo and Sully kind of create this quite a close relationship, I guess. Sully cares for Boo a lot, and all Mike wants to do is just kind of get rid of Boo and just send her back to...
He wants to put that thing back where it came from, also help him.
Yes. Put it back where it came from in the real world. But another monster called Randall is working with Mr. Waterstone.
It's Waternoose,
yeah. And create this scream machine that sucks screams out of children, so they don't have to use workforce monsters anymore. So it's all automated, which is very kind of ironic to what's happening now. So then Mike and Sully find out about this conspiracy theory. They tell Mr. Waternose, but they're like, yeah, it was actually me all along. They banish Sully and Mike to...
It was Agatha all along.
To Nepal. And then they get back pretty quickly and basically stop Randall and Mr. Waternose. And they end up putting Bo back where she came from with this amazing door chase.
It's Boo.
Boo, whatever.
It's Boo. Jesus Christ, man.
What do you make of this one then, Boaz?
Yeah, man, I love it. I have very, very, very fond memories of this film. Watched it many, many times when I was younger. Yeah, I still think it holds up. It was a good, fun joyride.
Yeah, this is 20 years old now.
Yeah, it's just mad.
2001, this came out. So let's get straight into it then with directing. I love the opening scene where a kid is sleeping in his bed. He hears a noise, sees something in his armchair, which is actually a monster arm, but it's so quick you can't really tell what it is. Then when we cut back, to that shot. It's just the arm of the dressing gown on the chair. Then there's some great like red glowing eyes and a brilliant silhouette rises up, and then the child screams, the monster screams and falls on loads of toys, and it's all revealed to be like a training exercise on a simulator for the monsters collecting screams to power their world. It's just like the perfect scene to start off with to explain this monster world.
Yeah.
But what's amazing is that it's done like a horror film. You know, it's a great visual twist. The film is bookended really well with like the simulator tricking Mr. Waternose near the end. You know, Mike trying to do stand-up comedy with the kids, but just resorting to swallowing the mic to make the kid laugh. Plus, at the end, when you see the same monster from the start messing up the scare because he fell on toys, you see the toys stuck on his butt at the end.
Yeah.
But for a laugh this time.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing like visual storytelling in that way. The beginning is very similar to the end kind of thing visually.
But yeah, no, it is tremendous, the intro, where it's all very tense and quite scary. And you're like, man, is this a kid's film? And then I love how he just like falls on a basketball or whatever, it's one of these balls, and then just starts bouncing around the room and landing on things. And you're like, oh my God. And then, yeah, it's a simulation.
I love all the funny individual monster moments that this film packs in. There's so many of them. Like when Mike and Sully are walking down the street, like a red monster is reading a newspaper. He sneezes and a fireball burns the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like a pink blob moves over a grate and falls through it, and his teeth, eyes, and hat remains on the grate. On the scare floor, when all the monsters are preparing to go through the doors, one monster puts like giant false teeth in. Another is like brushing the other's teeth. Like one puts a load of eyes on his face and one falls off. You know, some just great little visual comedy moments.
I also like when Mike Wazowski's girlfriend, after she was she was contaminated, and the contamination force or whatever, the child detection agency,
the CDA,
she comes back and she's like furious at Mike Wazowski, and she's got one of those cones for her neck, but then all of her fucking snakes have a cone. You know, each have a cone. Funny. I thought that was quite funny.
I thought the way, like, Sully says goodbye to Bo is so well done, just because they give so much time for it to play out. Like, Sully has to encourage Bo to go in her room and her bed. You know, they hug. Then when Sully leaves, Bo immediately opens the door, and it's just... and all you hear is Kitty, and there's just nothing there. It's just the closet. You know, it just breaks your heart. It's so well done. And of course, right at the end, Sully does see Bo again, and all you hear is Kitty. So it is like a really sweet end. Not the saddest Pixar end, I would say. There are quite a few ahead of it, but it's still really, really good. I think certainly all the ones I mentioned in terms of how they end, they are really, really sad. I think... You know, this is only Pixar's fourth feature, so they were only just beginning to like lean into these sad endings. You know, they were treading their toes into that kind of style of ending. So it's not right up there in terms of the emotional gut punches that a lot of the other Pixar films have, but it's still pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, what's your saddest ending for you?
I have a feeling like Toy Story 3. When they were going to die and they just accept it and hold hands. I mean, Jesus Christ, that was so fucking dark. And it's crazy because it's a Pixar film, it's a kid's film. But at the time you thought, okay, you know, things end in threes. You know, this is the trilogy, it's going to end. And, you know, obviously you didn't know that they were going to make another one. You know, probably they could still make another one. But it was like they've completed their arcs. Everybody's completed their arcs.
Yeah.
Like Woody has done everything he needs to do. So is Buzz. So is Jesse. They're all finished with an arc, and so that really freaked me out when I was a kid. Well, I think I was even a teenager, but it still freaked me out. So I would say that really stuck with me.
I think it's just emotional with the fact that it had been so long since the last film as well.
Yeah.
You know, you're finally excited to see all these characters back again. And you're like, oh my God, they're going to kill them? What the hell?
Yeah, you do get like, oh no.
Yeah.
You want to look away. But I still think it was a beautiful moment because it was like, just how there for each other they are.
I think for me, a lot of people, it doesn't work amazingly, but Onwards is Have you seen that?
Yeah,
one?
I've seen Onwards. Yeah, I thought Onwards was really good.
Yeah, that's oh my god.
Yeah.
I kind of sometimes I feel like Pixar films need to come with a warning.
Yeah, I know.
Like you're gonna cry loads.
Yeah. No, Onwards was very emotional because it's to do with family, and
I guess it's a very personal choice as well.
Yeah.
Pixar is so good at just like hitting your heartstrings in lots of different ways.
So while we're on the topic of directing, I've got to go over, because it's as good as I remember it, but the fight scene on the doors.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Holy shit. It's still, to me, like when I was younger, that blew me away, and it still blows me away. It's just, it's an incredible concept that all of these doors are portals into, different closets around every child's house in the world. And just the fact that they're hanging off them, fighting on these fucking, doors against Randall and stuff, and then jumping in through other doors to go out of a, and they basically like go in some human house and then run to another closet and then open it up and they're on another door. And it's so weird. It's an incredible final fight.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite, I think, in the Pixar stuff, because it's just the most creative,
Because it feels like to me Pixar are showing people what animation can do at this time, in 2001. I feel like they're always trying to one up themselves in how creative their action is. They're like, that amazing airport scene in Toy Story 2 with all the different luggage going everywhere. Well, we've got that in this film, but way better. I love the way like they all travel through all the different countries through each door. One door is lying flat on the ground and they jump sideways through it to Paris, which I thought was a great little touch.
And then a nice comedy moment as well, because Mike Wazowski, he jumps through it and he's like, boom, lands on his back. He's like, that was weird. And Sully does that and lands straight on top of him. Just crushes him. And also, I love that bit where Randall has unclipped one of the doors and they're falling and they're trying to get in the door.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing, because from then they're like, yeah!
Open the door!
Yeah, open the door. But when they get into the room, obviously they're on solid ground. It's just really, really strange.
And there's some amazing shots where like Sully is hanging off the door while Randall was inside the room trying to kick him off, and the background is shaking all over the place while the inside of the room is perfectly still.
Yeah.
So it messes with your mind a bit, disorientates you in like a really good way.
Yeah.
So directing score, Boaz, what are you going for?
I mean, there are so many good moments, and they're directed really well. Oh, I was going to say another moment that I quite liked.
Yeah.
I suppose comedy wise is where he thinks Boo's been like going through the crusher, the trash crusher. And like in each section, he keeps fainting. So it's like goes to a bit that mashes it up. It's like, he like gets back, goes into a bit that grinds it up. I love that. Yeah. Anyway, direction. Oh man, I'll go like 8.6 or something.
Pete Docter, I think, is certainly one of the geniuses at Pixar who directs his first one here. Yeah, I think I'll probably go like an 8.7, I think. So, screenplay then. I do think this film is for adults more than children, I would say. Like, there's a lot of visual comedy in here, but the first 20 minutes is all world building of basically two characters going to work, like walking down the street. You see what they do on their day job. Mike is filing paperwork. Mike is setting up a date after work with Celia. Sully is basically competing to become Employee of the Month. This film is setting up a story that adults understand really well. You add that they're monsters. You add that they scare children with a convoy belt of doors. It becomes really funny. Plus, the irony is that our characters are scaring children in their sleep, on a regular basis. That's why I love this film as an adult, because there's so much humor here for adults as well as children. There's another like adult type storytelling device here that drives the plot along. That's conspiracy theories, where I kind of talked about that in the plot synopsis. It's well established from the start that if a child touches like a monster, that it will kill them. But it's then made very clear that it's a lie when Bo arrives in the monster world and she's lifting up Sully's tail.
Yeah.
And soon after, the city goes wild at the restaurant. Monsters are saying on TV, Well, a kid flew right over me and blasted a car with a laser beam.
Yeah.
With a laser vision, sorry. I tried, and there's another monster who says, I tried to run, but it picked me up with its mind powers and shook me like a doll. You're like, something's very off here that the monsters are believing this, and it makes the rest of the film have like a brilliant like mystery conspiracy thriller element to it. Even when the conspiracy is revealed, it feels very true to life in the workplace that machines are taking over our jobs in this film. You know, the bad guys want to use machines to extract screams instead of using scarers. The story is based on very normal real life issues. I think it's brilliant. Yeah. The fact that you can, you know, add like a conspiracy theory element, a mystery element to essentially an animated film is amazing.
I also think it's really great that the main character, he's like the world's greatest scarer and what have you. He's the scariest monster.
Yeah.
But he's like just the sweetest, you know, especially when they find Boo and stuff. And he's very much like a father, very protective. Yeah, sort of questions like what the hell he does, you know, especially when she finds out, you know, and is like, is terrified of him. I really like that moment. I thought that moment was really good. Where she catches him in the scaring demonstration, like roaring.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she's like, oh my God, like he's a monster. Yeah, I just thought he was sweet. I love his interactions with Boo. And at the start when... Well, I just like how he goes from being afraid of her to, like, you know, he's playing with her and stuff like that, and, you know, gives her a name and really cares about her well-being.
Yeah, and I love how the film makes Sully care for Boo, as you said, Boaz, and sees past the lie of children being dangerous. For example, Boo is hiding in the toilets. You know, Sully is pretending to be like a scary monster, even though he is one. Certainly to the other monsters, you know, to find Boo again. And it's done in a very, like, playful manner. There's scenes where Sully is trying to show Boo that he's not scary because he's off duty. Then the door scenes where they try and put Boo back to her world. In the first one, Mike is prepared to just chuck her in a brown Austrian door, I think, because you hear yodeling or whatever.
Yeah. I think yodeling's Switzerland, right?
Yeah, it's kind of that area, isn't it?
Yeah, same area.
You know, Sully's like, that's not her door. And then in the second door scene, Mike has the right door for Bo, and Sully is prepared to put her back at that point in the story in her bedroom as soon as Mike says Randall is involved, he's like, no, something's not right. But because you really feel the affection in the animation that Sully has for Bo, that decision from Sully works really well. I feel like that this is a bold move because if you don't get that right, the audience could easily be like, well, why would you not put Bo back? You know, I think Randall being super shifty works with that decision too, you know. So I think it's quite a brave storytelling device because if you don't get that relationship right, the whole film falls apart. So I like the reveal of Mr. Waternoose being the main bad guy and that Randall is just like a pawn. And after Mike and Sully find out about the plan to capture children and just suck screams from them using a machine, Mike and Sully go and tell Mr. Waternoose the truth. Mike explains everything. Then Mr. Waternoose says, does anyone else know about this? Which is interesting. You know, it piques your curiosity about this character. You know, something's not right here. Then you see Bo's door and you're like, oh, okay, he's just going to put her back. And then you see it leave and a big metal door arrives with Randall. Then Mike says, sir, that's not her door. Yeah. And then he says, I know, it's yours. Yeah. And then Mike and Sully get banished, and it's a great twist that has an emotional gut punch because moments before that, as you said, Boaz, Mr. Waternoose forces Sully to roar on the simulator, and Bo is like hiding next to the bed and gets really scared of him. So you have like double jeopardy there. You know, Mike and Sully are banished, plus Bo's genuinely really scared of Sully now. So it's just a really great twist with, you know, a double-edged sword kind of thing. Like, this is really bad for Sully and Mike. Plus, Bo is really fucking scared of Sully. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I definitely do like that twist of Waternoose as the main villain. Well, mainly because you know Randall's a villain. Basically, when he shows up, you know he's going to be the villain. You know, even before you get like the actual plot set up, it's like he's shifty. He hates the main characters. Like he's the bad guy. You know, just for definite. And I like how they build that up. And it's like with what he was doing at night in Beau's room, and then he kicked the plot going off, and he wants the kid, and he kidnaps Mike, and blah blah blah. But then it's just a really great twist when they tell Waternoose, where it's like, of course he's going to know the answers, because in opposition he's always been set up as he's a good guy. You know, he's the guy that explains the Monsters universe to the new students, so he's one of the first characters we actually hear speak, and he's very friendly with Sully. You know, he seems like a nice guy, a nice creature,
even though he looks really old and got spider legs for legs.
Yeah,
so you should really see it coming, really.
Yeah, I think it was a clever thing though to make him old. Like as a creature, especially when he's chasing Sully, he is horrific. Because I love how he runs with his spider legs and like on walls and shit. You know, it's really freaky. But the point I'm making is like you forget that he is actually like a creepy design, because he seems like so grandfatherly. And then when the twist happens, you're like, oh okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Plus, it's really interesting timing with that reveal, because really it's triple jeopardy, really, for Sully, because Mike is really pissed off with Sully right now in Nepal. Mike says we were about to break the scare record. Then Sully says none of that matters now. Then Mike is questioning their relationship, saying, what about everything we've worked for? What about Celia? What about me? I'm your best friend. Don't I matter? So I quite like the fact that the reveal of the conspiracy comes out fairly early in quite a short film, to give these characters time to talk about their relationship to one another. So, it's great, emotionally satisfying storytelling for me, that they commit time to just two monsters talking about their issues. Funny lines. Scary feet, scary feet, scary feet. The kid's awake. Scary feet, scary feet, scary feet. The kid's asleep is a great one to begin with from Mike Wazowski. Yeah. Come on, you could use the exercise. I could use the exercise. Look at you. You have your own climate. When they're walking to work is a good one.
Oh, what was it? Where he was saying, like, that giant chicken monster. It's like, you see, he walks to work. He's like, big deal. 5 steps and he's there.
Yeah. How does he get through the doors?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I don't get that. He must do, like, I don't know, maintenance to the roof or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only job he can get.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he just sticks his foot through the sunroof and just puts a little toe through the door. It's like, that would scare the shit out of me.
He's got to sign in somehow.
Yeah. So. Actually, that was another funny bit where he shows the crushed box to Mike Wazowski, and he's like, "Where's Beau?" He's like, and hands him the box, and it's got the little eye for the costume that they made for her, and he goes, "I can still hear her voice." And you can actually hear her voice because she's talking with the other kids.
Are there 2 of them?
I like Mike. She's like, hey, I can hear her too. And then he hears other kids. How many of them are in there?
Yeah,
that was quite funny.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
That's a really good impression. I think that's like your best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So all the others were terrible, were they? Oh,
yes, they were just fucking abysmal. That's the only one that sounds anything like.
Just wait until your film, dude. Just wait. George and I are like brothers. 2319, we have a 2319.
Yeah, that was funny.
What a bastard. I mean, there's no friendship there.
I do love how like when he gets there's another sock on him. And he just like he starts yelling it again, and he just shoves the sock down his throat and like balls him up and throws him through the door. Fuck you.
Yeah, that's a great running joke actually, because they
I think it's 2 other times before.
Yeah, and then that's the 3rd one where he throws him in the door. Yeah, so it's a great running joke there. That's the thing, they pack so much into like 90 minutes. It's insane. There's a great one from Mike Wazowski. Where he's talking to Celia at the restaurant, and he's like, just the other day, someone asked me who was the most beautiful monster in all of Monstropolis. You know what I said? What did you say? I said, Sully?
Yeah.
And sees Sully in the
that was
window.
funny, yeah.
That's cool.
Also, there was another running gag from the beginning at the end of the film where he's going to be in the Monsters Inc. advert. And like everybody gets a chance to shine in the advert. And then right at the end of the advert, there's a wide shot of all the staff and the logo covers his head. You know? and he's like, oh my God. And Sully's like, I'm so sorry, buddy.
I'm sorry.
And he's like, I was on TV. And then at the end, they do the same thing where it was like Monsters Inc. magazine and the barcode is over his face.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm on a magazine.
Okay, look, I think I have a plan here. Using mainly spoons, we dig a tunnel under the city and release it into the wild. Roz, my tender oozing blossom, you're looking fabulous today. Is that a new haircut? But I think my favorite one is actually when Wazowski gets caught by Randall and he puts Mike in the sucking machine that sucks screams out. And Randall says, Wazowski, where is it, you little one-eyed cretin? And then Mike says, okay, first of all, it's creep. If you're going to threaten me, do it properly. I thought that was really clever writing. Screenplay score, Bowers, what are you going for?
I think I'll go maybe like an 8.
I think the script is awesome, to be fair. The fact that there's so much like adult comedy in there, as well as just simple visual comedy for kids as well. And I really do think this is an animated film for adults more than children. I think adults get way more out of it. I think that's just so brave. When it came out 2001, so I think it's just genius, the mind of Pete Docter. It's really clever, so I'm going to probably go like a solid 9 for me. So acting then, voice acting rather. I think Billy Crystal does an amazing job here as Mike Wazowski.
Yeah, he's great.
He has so much dialogue, and most of the time he has to say it really quickly in this very like frantic way. Plus, there's a musical moment for the character. Go on, Balance.
Put that thing back where it came from. Also help me. Also help me. Also help me. And cut. I like how he does that again, where he's like, somebody says to Randall, they're doing a play, and he's like, she's out of our hair.
It's just an incredible performance by Billy Crystal. It's just so energetic. And at the other end of the spectrum, Billy Crystal is amazing when Mike is questioning whether he means anything to Sully in the pool. You know, he's emotional, but not trying to be overdramatic in his sadness, kind of, you know, matching up his voice acting specifically for animation, I would say, certainly in that moment, if that makes any sense. I love how Pixar like cast their voices in their films, especially this one. I think they get it absolutely spot on. Like Mike Wazowski is a character that rambles a lot and has amazing like temper tantrums and cheesy one-liners to Celia. You would think Billy Crystal would be perfect for that. It's Billy Crystal. You know, for Randall, you would want like a slimy, Weasley type voice. You would think Steve Buscemi. It's Steve Buscemi. For Sully, you want like a big cuddly bear of a voice with a slight edge. You want some scariness there, I would say. You would think John Goodman. It's John Goodman.
Yeah.
I think it's just perfectly cast.
Yeah, it is perfectly cast. I think I'll change my score for screenplay to 8.5.
Okay. I've done it again, people. I've done it. Yeah, any other voices do you like in this film, Boaz?
Oh, the Abominable Snowman, even though he's not in it for that long. I thought he was fucking hilarious.
He's in a lot of Pixar films, isn't he?
Yeah, he plays the pig from the Toy Story films.
Yeah, John Ratzenberger.
Yeah, that was quite funny. You know, because you don't expect him to sound like that. He shows up, he's like, welcome to the Himalayas!
Yeah. He's just like the nicest Abominable Snowman ever.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah.
He's the Underminer in Incredibles.
Oh, yeah, that was true.
Mac in Cars. There's quite a few characters in Cars. I think he's like one of the construction workers in Up, like near the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the one he hits in the face with a leaf blower.
And even Rob Peterson, who plays Raz. You know, it's a bloke.
Is it
doing
really?
Raz, yeah.
Was it you?
No. No, it's not me. I wish it was, though.
I think it could have been you. Yeah.
I'm watching you, Mike Wazowski. Always watching. I was tempted to do that voice during the intro, but I was like, I need a lot of water afterwards. So. Oh, there you go. You need a lot of water, Eddie, when you're doing that voice. I've done it again. I need to do it again. Right. And also, it's amazing to read that the great James Coburn, one of the Magnificent Seven and one of the 3 survivors of the Great Escape, voices Mr. Waternose. His now gravelly voice is just brilliant for the bad guy. It's just amazing to read that. I don't know if you know James Coburn. He's like a Western legend. He's one of the top actors of that era.
Yeah, what was it? He's in Duck You Sucker or A Fistful of Dynamite. I've watched that a lot. I've watched that film a lot. So yeah, I know this guy.
Sergio Leone film.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just amazing to read that he's in this film.
His graveliness, like he has a sense, a feeling of authority, but kind of nurturingness and, sort of old wisdom. But then when he's like bad and evil, it's not, it does feel like a nice evolution from that, because it's like, he's serious, he's scary, and he's like desperate, and he's like, listen, like, and just kind of a lot. And, his graveliness for that just makes him sound even cooler as a villain. So
never really played like a villain in his career, I don't think, just off the top of my head. So it's kind of cool that he is a villain in itself. So, favourite voice acting performance, Baz? Who are you going with?
So there are 2, to me, that really stick out. I think number 1 has got to be Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
I think he's just my favourite. But I think number 2 would have to be Randall, Steve Buscemi. I just really like how he plays the character, especially when he's out there threatening. Actually, one of my favorite scenes with him is where he's threatening Mike to get the kid. And you remember he winds his arms to, when the clock strikes this. And, and he's just really intimidating. And, you do want to see him get his ass kicked, So he's very unlikable.
Well, he's just got one of those voices, hasn't he? That's just Weasley and
Weasley. Yeah,
I think that's just the term, isn't it? Weasley.
Yeah, and I also like the speech that he gives, like when he's going to kill Sully. He's like stepping on his fingers. I'll take care of the kid and stuff like that. But just very sort of slimy, untrustworthy, backstabby sort of voice. Just does a really good job, I think.
I think my favourite is Billy Crystal. Yeah, same as you, Boaz. He just has a broad range of like emotional voices, I guess. Score, Boaz, for the voice acting?
Yeah, I might go 9 actually.
I'm not sure I'd go as high as a 9. I do feel like in this film, especially, that the actors are really going for it, and they're doing everything they can with their voices to portray these characters, and you really feel that. So I'll go like an 8.6, I think. Right, let's add up the scores then for Monsters, Inc. Monsters, Inc. gets 52.4. So, Mr. Encyclopedia Man, what is your film for Pixar Films 2?
I picked Luca.
Nice. So why did you pick this one? I feel like it's possibly Nice inspired.
Yeah, she watched this many, 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 many times.
Yeah, so what happens in Luca?
Luca is about the titular character called Luca and his friend Alberto, who are 2 sea monsters living in Italy next to the island of Porto Rosso. And his parents are very overprotective of him. He's like a fish shepherd.
Yeah.
And they want him to just stay, do his job, and just don't venture to the humans above because they're dangerous. But he ends up meeting Alberto, who is a sea monster who frequently goes to the surface. There's also another caveat: whenever a sea monster gets out of the sea and dries off, they look human. He gets out of the sea and he hangs out with Alberto. His parents find out and they're going to keep him, on the bottom of the ocean with his uncle. And he leaves with Alberto and they go to the neighboring island, Porto Rosso, meet a friend, a girl who becomes their friend, Julia. They want to get a Vespa moped.
Yeah, not a drink.
Yeah, and drive off far away. So they enter the Porto Rosso Cup, which is a competition where you have to do racing, eating pasta, and swimming. And if and then you'll get enough money to buy a Vespa. That's their adventure.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The style and the look of it. It looks amazing. One of Pixar's best looking films, I would say.
Hmm.
Certainly, like with Pixar now, their animation with the worlds that they create, it's pretty incredible. In some shots, it literally looks real.
Yeah.
And yet when you have like the animated characters interact with the world, it doesn't feel jarring at all, like we were talking about in Dinosaur last time. Yeah, I think, it's very Italian.
Yeah.
It's very Italian culture inspired. I don't know whether they lean too much into that and sacrifice story a bit. It's fine, it's perfectly fine. I think that's how I would describe it, really.
Yeah.
It's not like high concept Pixar, like Peak Doctor's work. It's still really good. It just didn't blow me away or anything. That's the thing with Pixar. Like they have a really high bar with their films, and I don't think Luca gets to that bar. I don't think. How about you?
My opinions, I still do really like it. I can sort of see what you're going for, what you're sort of saying. Like, it is quite cliche, and, the Italian stuff stops getting funny at a certain point, and you're like, this is kind of like a parody of Italian culture at some point. And so I kind of get that. Visually, though, I do think it is incredible. It is. It looks phenomenal. I just think there's no getting past that. And even though it's kind of cliche, it achieves the beats that it's going for. I would say, I mean, from a directing point of view, I think it just looks good. I don't know, even when they're doing like imagination sequences and dream sequences, I think they're just really good. I also think it's kind of interesting to have a story that's more about a friendship, that focuses really heavily on a friendship rather than I mean, there is a romance in it, but it's kind of secondary to the friendship between Luca and Alberto, and I kind of like that.
It actually reminded me a lot of Call Me By Your Name, some elements. Not just because of the Italian setting, but kind of just the relationships in there as well.
I mean, they could have really gone all out if they wanted to, and done something very, very different and actually make them in love. Because before, like, he's got a thing for Julia, it really does feel like they're going that way. And I mean, that would be interesting because, there's never been like a same-sex, Pixar couple or whatever. That's just never happened. And there are, many, many love stories between heterosexual love stories in Pixar films and just every kind of film. It would have been interesting because it's like they are such a focus. Do you know what? It could go that way, but it doesn't.
Yeah. So directing then, like the first time Luca changes into human form is it kind of just happens. It didn't feel particularly dramatic, but I like the nice big wide shot of Alberto sitting down watching Luca freak out.
Yeah.
But I think they were going for the whole idea like, nope, no thank you, not for me mentality, immediately not liking being a human. But then like the second transformation for Luca is again not that dramatic, but the entertaining part of the scene is the physicality of Luca trying to walk.
Yeah.
And not the transformation, which I wasn't expecting, and I thought was a really nice surprise actually, because he's like trying to walk, but like trying to like swim in, using his fin. It was quite funny, but his fin's not there. Yeah. The dream sequence where Luca is dreaming about riding a Vespa with Alberto through fields and stars, and Luca touches the moon like it's a fish. Looks amazing. It has this like amazing canvas painting feel I got from it, but it did feel a bit forced to me. Like we need something visually different now in this world that we've established. I feel like in a lot of other Pixars, that look would be established into the world in that film, and not just a dream, if that makes sense. It did feel like you could easily lose that scene. Then later you have Julia showing Luca all these books on Italian culture, then all of a sudden Luca is running on the rings of Saturn in space, then flying a contraption that Da Vinci made all around the Colosseum. I did feel it was a bit shoehorned in for me, especially when the Italian landscape that they're in anyway is stunning to look at. So did you get that sense? Or
no, I can't say I ever got
okay.
That. I think like those parts were kind of my favorite parts in the movie, where it just kind of it's a fairly realistic setting, and it's a fairly like mundane story, and when you have like the dream sequences there, or where he's thinking and shit, I think it just gets just very visually interesting. I will agree. Yeah, I suppose it's not strictly necessary, and it doesn't really add anything. But it's more to do with the visuals of it. It's just more to do with it's just some stuff to put on the screen that looks really nice and is very creative. So I'll get you there from like a script point of view, but from like a purely technical cinematic point of view, I do really like those scenes. Maybe they could have been incorporated better into the story, but I do still think they were pretty awesome. And I didn't really have too much of a problem with them because you have all kinds of dream scenes or fantasy scenes in movies, so it didn't really distract me too bad.
I think that's probably my issue, is the fact that you expect that a lot in live action films. When there is a dream sequence, you're like, oh cool, it's a dream sequence now in a live action film, but this isn't live action. And it feels like Pixar are doing their own like live action film, but it's just animation.
Yeah.
So it just feels a bit weird to me.
Okay.
So I feel like when Pixar does stuff like that, it's part of the world that they've already established, but with this it's not. Yeah, I've only watched this film once, so maybe it might play better on repeat viewings, but it did feel a bit shoehorned in for me. I mean, there's a lot of like brief funny moments as well where Lucas's parents arrive in the human town, and when they turn human, Daniela, Luca's mother, dives on his dad because he looks human. That was quite funny.
Yeah,
and all the cat scenes with Luca is pretty funny, like scolding at him because the cat knows he's a sea monster. I love the little bit where they're out fishing with Massimo, the guy with one arm, Julia's dad, and he brings the cat with them for some reason, fishing, and it dives on Lucas's face and somehow launches it into the ocean. Then it looks terrified when it's all wet. And then it's perfectly happy when Luca gives the cat a fish, Ercole pours olive oil on his teammate and shoves pasta down another teammate's mouth. That was pretty funny as well. So again, like typical Pixar, just like Monsters, Inc., there's a lot of like really great, funny little moments that really work really well just on a visual level.
I also like, when they're, several scenes, like, so one when they're going around the town and he kind of realizes it's dangerous because you have this almost kind of lovely sort of, I don't know, dreamlike quality. It's sun is shining, they're interacting with people, they're saying, hey, out of the way, stupido, and just having fun. And there's all this nice music and a
little bit of.
Yeah. And I just kind of like the transition from this seems like an amazing place and there's all this great music and, the way things are shot and everything looks amazing. But then when he realizes there are like harpoons and pictures of people stabbing fish and like statues of destroying fishmen, and you're like, ah! And he's just like, I think we should get the fuck out of here. And I quite like how that was set up. And then also when they went to Julia's father, Miyasamo, or whatever, they went to his, into his house, and he's got like harpoons and stuff. And he seemed very intimidating. And I thought that was really funny where he spits out like his water onto Alberto's face, and like he turns, and then he like throws him under the table before they turn around. I thought that was some really good timing with the comedy and stuff.
Yeah, some great visual comedy with when they get wet and they turn to sea monsters, and the kind of like the choreography of the characters, like somehow not seeing them as sea monsters. There's a great bit when they're like sleeping outside in this tree house and it rained, so they wake up as sea monsters.
Yeah, that was fun.
Then Julia's about to like wake them up and they have to scamper down the tree and hide and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool, just in terms of like the choreography of it. And there's a brilliant moment after Alberto and Luca win the race and his parents reveal that they're sea monsters too. Then there's these random characters that reveal that they're sea monsters. That was hilarious. But then there was a wide shot with quite a few characters that still have their umbrellas up. They're like, yeah, we're just watching what's happening. I swear someone should be going around saying, remove your umbrella, please. Remove your umbrella. Are you a sea monster?
Just cutting them off at the handles.
I just thought that was quite funny. The fact that you have this big wide shot and there's still people with umbrellas. I'm like, that looks dodgy to me.
Oh man, when Alberto gets outed as a sea monster, I thought that was shot really well. Just thought that was really good. When he jumps into the water, like, will your school accept sea monsters? And he jumps in to show Luca that this is ridiculous, like trying to pretend to be a person and stuff. And Julia like tries to pick him up and sees the tail, and then how he's shot is he looks like really large and imposing. I just love how it was all shot. I think it really complemented the scene very well.
So I feel like the Pixar's like lighting engines or whatever are amazing now. They just look so realistic. It's probably not the right word, but realistic. And the worlds just feel really real with the lighting and the way they're shot now. I think my favorite scene shot is I really like the bike chase after Alberto and Luca turn into sea monsters. Coley is chasing them with a harpoon, and there's great like low angles staying with the characters, which is always a great advantage in animation with action scenes, is that you can put the camera exactly where you want. There's a great shot where Coley throws the harpoon and the camera is right next to it as it flies through the air, but the harpoon is kind of overtaking the camera, and I thought that looks really impressive for me.
I just like so many scenes in the film. Actually, my favorite, I think, shot/scene, because of where it's positioned in the film, but is where Luca decides to save Alberto, even though it means like outing himself. He flies straight through the rain and starts to turn. I think that transformation is like visually the most impressive transformation. Rain is just striking him, and he just kind of turns into the creature very gradually, while you have this music, like hero music crescendoing. It's done kind of in slow motion. I thought, like, visually that was really very stunning. I think a lot of the dream sequences were really kind of very interesting.
Yeah, visually they're amazing.
How it's conveyed, how it's shot, while not strictly necessary. It's almost like putting a lot of flavor on a fairly mundane dish. It's like it doesn't really change what the dish is, but it is still, you still got to give them props.
Mac and cheese.
You still got to give them props for all the stuff that they added.
So directing score for me, I think I will go. I would still go pretty high. I think, as we've said, it looks stunning.
Yeah,
I was just like, I want to go to Italy right now. Even though it's in an animated world, I'm like, I want to go to Italy right now. So I think I'll probably go like an 8.6. How about you, sir?
I would go an 8.9.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right, screenplay then. I quite like how the first half hour of the film is quite character-driven. Well, I guess the whole film is very character-driven, actually, but certainly the first half hour is. Luca and Alberto just getting to know each other. Alberto showing Luca what it's like to be human, but like he knows everything, but it doesn't come across as annoying, which I think is impressive. Making a character who thinks he knows everything feel charming and innocent is very delicately done. I love how much time they give the characters just messing around on the mainland, and I think in a lot of other animated films you would have moved on by now. But that's why it's a big shame that I didn't feel much at the end at all when Luca goes off on the train at the end, which is disappointing for a Pixar film. And it might be because there's not enough for adults in this film, possibly. Like there was in Monsters, Inc. There was a lot of storytelling elements for adults, whereas this I'm not sure there is. But I really liked the beginning, the fact that you just spend time with these characters, and I really enjoyed their interactions. When they get to the human town, the plot like kicks in where they meet Julia and they enter this triathlon race so they can buy a Vespa bike so they can be free. But that's all there is to the plot, I guess. I feel like the stakes aren't very high in this film. Yes, all the water stuff is very entertaining, where they have to hide themselves when they get wet because they look like sea monsters. But I feel like the characters aren't really that very threatening. If a character sees them as a sea monster, I didn't feel like they were going to be in big trouble because all the characters seem to be really nice.
Yeah.
Other than obviously Coley, obviously.
Although he's a kind of pathetic villain. He's not very threatening. He's just a jackass. But you do feel like if you stood up to him, you could break his teeth. Like, he's.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a failing in the script writing process. Maybe a more threatening villain, or maybe have actual shots of them murdering fucking sea people like at the beginning. So then that these friendly villages are not so friendly. They will fucking fuck them up.
Because I think tonally you could do that.
Absolutely.
But still keep the family-friendly tone. You don't have to have blood everywhere or anything.
Yeah, of course you could. Well, I'm just saying, even though this is not Pixar, but in The Hunchback in Notre Dame, Judge Frollo and the authorities are a threat because they are flat out murdering gypsies. At the beginning, and he fucking kicks Quasimodo's mother to death. That was allowed on a cartoon. And he was terrifying, absolutely terrifying as a Disney villain. I don't think he gets enough recognition. And so maybe that's why it comes across as maybe a little less adult and a little more childish, because they're not really pushing the villains into that sort of territory. Like they're more like bumbling idiots rather than a genuine threat.
Yeah. And when Julia's dad sees Luca and Alberto as sea monsters at the end, I knew he would be fine with it because he was never very threatening at all.
It would be more of a surprise if he just killed them. That would have been a surprise.
Yeah. You certainly earned a bit of a living, I guess. Get some dosh for it. Yeah. But I feel like, Massimo needed to be more threatening and cuddly at the same time. I feel like the cuddliness overtook the threateningness of that character.
Also, actually, when Albert, because that's a missed opportunity, when Albertus was looking at his arm, what happened to his arm, and he goes, a sea monster ate it. And he's like, I'm only joking, I was born this way. I was like, man, that would have been a much better that would have been a much better arc if his arm was eaten by a sea monster.
Yeah, I don't get why that's a joke.
Yeah,
that would work perfectly.
It would work perfectly. I think when it comes to the threats in this film, it's way too sanitized. So it's all of the sea monsters are good people. All of the humans are good people. There's only one jerk, Urkele, and he's not like a serial killer or anything like that. He's just a jerk, and not even that threatening. So I think when it comes to the threat level in this film, it's very mild. It's very mild. It's very, very mild. And I think they could have upped that. It would have been great, as I just said, if actually they didn't take that as a joke. And Miyasamo is really trying to kill sea monsters because he really hates them.
Yeah, so I do feel like that is a missed opportunity with that character.
Yeah.
I think the end goal for the characters isn't very interesting, but as the film develops, Luca gets closer to Julia and is more interested in getting to know her. There's brilliant, subtle tension developing between Luca and Alberto. Alberto feels threatened that Julia doesn't know what Luca needs and wants. Luca is deviating from the Vesper plan, so the longer the film went on, the more I enjoyed it, I think. Then the stakes felt a lot higher if they got wet because of Luca's friendship with Julia, if she saw them compared to anybody else. So I quite liked the fact that, Luca's interests go from Alberto to Julia. I thought that was kind of really interesting. And when Alberto gets fed up with Julia, he reveals himself as a sea monster, as you said, Baz, interacting at the beach, which looked amazing. Thinking Luca would reveal himself too, but what I didn't expect was Luca to brutally shout sea monster and Alberto swims away. And I was like, oh shit, you've completely betrayed him. Yeah. So I quite liked how the film switches Luca's attentions from Alberto to Julia. It felt very genuine, and there was enough character work to make that moment work really well. But I felt like Luca's feelings are feeling very guilty about what happened, happened very quickly, and it was just I will win the race for you, Alberto. I would have wanted more of Luca and Julia together before changing his mind.
I think that scene is incredible, where, I've just said it before, from a visual point of view, but even from a storytelling point of view, when he betrays him. But I think you're right, it does kind of get glossed over very quickly. Not only that, it's he betrays him to keep his secret from Julia, but she immediately finds out. She just throws a glass of water at him. So you're kind of thinking, surely that should have happened later as well. It's he doesn't even get the moment to,
And she's not even that shocked either when
care,
she throws a glass of water. It's oh yeah, you're a sea monster. Yeah. Okay. We still need to win the race.
Yeah.
I'm like, hello, you've just been working with a sea monster the whole time.
Surely shouldn't this blow your mind? But
and your dad is a sea monster hunter or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, she is concerned of him. It does seem like it from that point. It is trying to get through the plot, the rest of it at breakneck speed. Yeah. I think it should have paced that stuff out more, so we can be uncomfortable with the tension for a little bit. So it may feel because that might be what the ending's lacking. The fact that there isn't a long enough period of tension between the characters that when everything is resolved, you feel like, that's a relief. Because everything was kind of resolved fairly quickly. It's like, you only had that tension happening towards the end. So after the betrayal where you're like, okay, I think maybe they could have let that stew for a little while. But I think maybe the fact that they had the betrayal happening much later in the film meant that, we're kind of running out of time here. So maybe that was a pacing issue.
I just feel like there's a perception that animated films have to be like 90 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think they have to, but I
feel like this film could have been at least an extra 10 minutes long just to make that last third work better and just have more time with what these characters are dealing with.
Absolutely.
With the fact that Julia is seeing her new friends are sea monsters. Especially when the film commits so much time in the beginning to establish a relationship between Luca and Alberto.
I think maybe what I would have done differently is I agree with you, like add an extra 15 minutes and have the betrayal part like create a new arc and don't solve it in 2 seconds with like apologies and stuff. And literally have 15 minutes of Julia is terrified of Alberto and it's like, I can't believe a sea monster was, and she's bad mouthing him and stuff. He gets to hang out with her, but it's like, oh my god, she's saying all this terrible stuff about my friend, that I've betrayed my friend. Let him sit with it for a bit and then later, and even have them try and actively kill Alberto, and then he's got to make a choice and he's got to save Alberto and reveal himself.
Or like maybe Julia is threatening to tell her dad about it or whatever.
Exactly.
So she has some emotional conflict there. Do I tell my dad or not?
Yeah. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what that's somewhat like is, do you remember Brave? I think they did it really well.
Yeah.
So, her mother's...
I really like Brave.
I thought Brave was really good. But her mother's a bear, and like her father just will not believe that that's the case. And, he tries to kill her several times, and it's like out of desperation. And finally, it's revealed that it's the mother, and you just think, oh my God, thank God for that. You're fucking seeing the truth now, you moron. And that felt good. I think they could have done something like that. I mean, these are fairly major criticism we're talking about the plot. I do think it is nice enough, the plot, and it gets through it. And there are sweet moments. And I do like all of the moments of just them hanging out, the friendship between Alberto and Luca, his parents, the friendship between them two, because they're quite funny with trying to find Luca in the crowd. So there's a lot of good relationships, but I think you're right. It's just there's not enough like tension. There's not enough stakes.
I feel like maybe the film is kind of embracing like the Italian culture a bit too much.
Yeah.
Of like this very like chilled, relaxed holiday type feel to the story.
Yeah, it does really feel like that, yeah.
So because of this environment, the story is not allowing itself to build the stakes up enough.
Yeah.
Because of this cultural feel, you don't want to break from this tone.
Yeah, I think I might agree. Because as we were saying before, it's like, seriously, there aren't, apart from Urkele, who's a jerk, there are no other bad people. Everybody is a good person.
Yeah.
Like, all the villagers are good. Julia's family is good. They're all very chill, even Luca's family, all of the sea monsters he knows. They're all nice, non-violent, okay people. And yeah, I think, maybe that is a sort of, it does get, I think you're right, give the feeling like it's a very chill, almost picturesque place. So, maybe you don't get the drama with that.
I feel like weirdly this story could work a lot better as a live action film and not Pixar or an animation. I think a lot of the emotional stuff would probably work better in live action. I think that's a weird thing to say, but I just get that feeling, Funny lines.
What's wrong with you, stupido?
Luca, I need you to punch his heart.
Yeah, that was funny.
Uncle Ugo. Now, walking is just like swimming, but without fins or a tail or also there's no water. Otherwise, it's like the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Luca stares at Caroli's Vespa. Hey, stop looking. She's too beautiful for you.
Yeah.
But my favorite line is from Uncle Ugo. He's talking about his, life in the deep sea. And he says, the mouth opened, the whale carcass go in. Yes, good. I recommend it. I thought he's such an amazing character.
Man, you sound like fucking Borat when you were doing that.
Well, it's voiced by Sacha Baron Cohen.
Is it really?
So,
Jesus, okay.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
You got a favourite line then? There aren't that many memorable ones, are there?
There's not that a huge amount. Oh, I like that. Okay, so I like the bit where he's trying to explain to him life on Earth, life on dry land.
Yeah,
and he was like, you can breathe in, fill your lungs, and like over there's the sun, and he's like, and he looks straight at it, and he's like, hey, don't look at it. No, I'm kidding. You can look at it, and he's like,
Yeah, that was fun.
That was funny. One bit that I thought was very funny, but it's not a line, it's more an action. Yeah. So I suppose this would go in scripting, but also in direction, is the whole football fight that his mother has.
That was so weird.
I thought that was awesome.
I found that a bit jarring. I'm like, how the hell are you all of a sudden really good at football?
I just loved that, yeah. Although, I never actually thought about the logic behind it, but I just loved that. I thought that was great.
When you literally live under the sea, and you're ever going to be playing football.
Yeah. Well, this is just a natural. But yeah, I just thought that was funny. Where she's like knocking them into water, into the fountain. So boom, kick that kid into the fountain. Boom, kicks that other kid. Smack the ball into those kids, into the fountain. And then I love that last kid is like putting his hands up and like launches the ball at was it a guy watering his plants or something? Knocks that onto his head. And then she's like, let's see like one of her rivals, Bianca, do that. And then she picks up the last kid and just throws him into the fountain. I thought that physically was a very funny moment. It's like you've done all that. It was. You've done all that stealthily, and then the last kid, you just fucking body slam him into the water.
How is no one like reporting them for child abuse though? I don't know. Like, what are they doing?
Where's the mum and dad? Just like, what the hell is this woman doing with my child? She just like suplexed him into the bloody.
Yeah, I mean, how do they not get arrested for like physical abuse, battery, and stuff with a football? Oh gosh, right. Screenplay score for me for Luca. I think I'll go like a 7.8. I think.
Yeah.
I really like the embracement of Italian culture in this film, the feel of that and the story of that. But I just think the stakes are just not there. Not there, really.
Yeah. No, I do completely agree with you. I was actually going to be a little harsher on it, so I'm glad it's nice that you were.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to be like a 7, either a 7.1 or a 7.2. I think I'll go a 7.2. Okay. But no, I do completely agree with you. I do think it's a fairly nice sort of chilled movie where you can just kind of put it on in the background. Yeah. I think what I really like about it is the visuals. I'm not going to... Like visually, I think it's stunning, but I do agree, like, when it comes to the plot, you can sort of put it on in the background, and I think we've kind of hit the nail on the head. There really aren't any stakes.
I mean, do you feel like Pixar now are running out of ideas?
Oh no, I don't think they'll ever run out of ideas.
No, yeah. But I feel like the likes of Andrew Stanton, Pete Docter, Brad Bird, they were the great Pixar directors of their golden age of kind of like the noughties, early teens. Of the 21st century. They're in obviously very higher up roles now in Pixar. They always do kind of like executive producing roles. I think Pete Docter is the head of Pixar now. I think, yes, he directed Soul as well, which I really like. So, they're letting a lot of other new voices come through, but I'm not sure just the talent is maybe there compared to those three and others coming through at Pixar at the moment. Because I mean, if you look at just at the Oscars, then they haven't won many recently. It's been other studios. I mean, they still make incredible films, but their bar is extremely high with their other films. So voice acting then. I liked Jack Dylan Grazer in the film as Alberto, but I feel like his personality didn't come through enough for me, especially when you compare it to his role in Shazam. He's awesome in that film, and I didn't tell it was the kid from Shazam until I looked him up. Compare that to Jacob Tremblay as Luca. I was like, yeah, that's Jacob Tremblay. I recognized his personality in his voice alone, and I didn't get that with Jack Dylan Grazer, especially because he was so good in Shazam. Not to say that he was bad, I just thought he could have been better, possibly.
As to like his voice actor, like I knew nothing about his voice actor, and that's kind of news to me that he was in Shazam. He was quite funny and kind of clueless most of the time.
Emma Burnham as Julia is amazing. I thought she brought this brilliant, like, hyperactive voice to her voice acting, but it wasn't annoying in any way. The way she goes so naturally into these Italian sayings was so satisfying to hear. I loved that stuff from her. I thought she was great. My favorite character has to be Uncle Ugo, and I can't believe he only has one scene.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this guy is amazing. Yeah. Why has he only got one scene? Yeah. And obviously played by Sacha Baron Cohen, Uncle Ugo. You know, he's this amazing, like, deep sea creature with see-through skin, you know, and he says, my favorite line, you know, the mouth opened, the whale carcass go in. Yes, good. I recommend it. You know, his performance is so amazing, and it's very just like, wow, where the hell has this guy come from? When you're watching it, it gives the film a real boost for me. You know, he brings this playful, weird creepiness to the role, which is so entertaining to watch and to hear. And it baffles me that he only gets one scene.
Well, he shows up in the end credits as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I stopped watching.
Oh, man.
Oh, shit.
This is why you've always... It doesn't matter, Marvel film or not. But, yeah, he's...
Is he the big bad coming in? In Pixar?
Yeah, it would be interesting, yeah. Gets two gauntlets on and... Gets the Pixar stones.
Where are those whale carcasses? Whale carcass got in my mouth. Please.
Yes, half of all the whale carcass.
I mean, there were plenty in the Hudson.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he shows up at the end credits. He's like in the darkness of the ocean eating whale carcass. So anyway, Google that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a really good character. It was kind of strange though to give him one scene.
I don't get it, to be honest. So it would have been interesting to see... Well, I guess he's not a sea monster, but he could have only been in the scenes underwater. So I guess I'm just trying to think. You probably can't fit him in anywhere. But he was such a compelling, really, really interesting character that I wanted to see him again, and it was just such a shame that you don't. It's just annoying you write like such an amazing character that can't come in again into your story. Yeah. It's just like, oh, come on, people. Yeah. But yeah, he makes such an impact that he is actually my favourite performance. Is Sacha Baron Cohen. He is.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it is. I think he is a standout performance. And yeah, you're right. It is so bizarre that he's only there for like a couple of seconds and then that's it. I think Urkeley does whoever does Urkeley does a good job of being a wanker. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Favourite performance?
I think mine might be Alberto.
Jack Dylan Grazer. So voice acting score for me, I think it's really good. It's really solid. I think I probably prefer the performances in Monsters Inc. But I do like the kind of Italian influences here in the voice acting, especially from Julia. I thought she was great. She'll probably be my number 2.
Oh, one of the things I found strange is like Luca's mother. Like, doesn't sound Italian at all. She sounds Jewish. No. You know? she's like a million miles away from everybody else.
Well, she's on Saturday Night Live, isn't she? Maya Rudolph in Bridesmaids.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, her voice and her husband's voice, they're just completely different from the rest of the cast. They're Americans, yeah.
Not
Italian at all.
So I'll probably go like a solid 8. Well, as voice acting score.
I think I'll go a 7.9.
Nice.
Actually, I'll go an 8. Actually, I'll go an 8. Yeah.
Right. Let's add up the scores then for Luca. Luca gets a very respectable 48.5. So Monsters Inc. wins this one with 52.4. I think, it's probably one of the great Pixar films still to this day, I would say. I would still probably put it in my top 5.
Yeah, it is an incredible movie.
Maybe even top 3, I don't know. Next episode, as Thor is
Thor 4
hitting our screens again, which is amazing. Yes, Thor. Love and Thunder.
Thor versus Batman. The ultimate fight.
Don't say Batman will win with preparation time. I mean, come on.
Yes, he will.
Everyone on the internet says that. Oh, Batman wins if he has preparation time. No, shut up.
Yeah, if with prep he'll develop an anti-Thor armor, anti-Thor batarangs. Thor is messed up. He's gonna mess him up.
Magic hammer. So I thought we'll go the director route with this one, and we're going to focus on Taika Waititi films. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have a guest for that one from the Haven't Seen It, a movie podcast.
Wait, you haven't seen it?
No, because
how disrespectful.
Because you have to hear it. Because it's podcast.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
You can't see nothing.
Okay.
Unless they do video.
That's really clever. Yeah.
We'll hopefully have them as guests for the next episode.
Yeah, and I won't be as tired there when that happens, hopefully.
Yes. So, thanks, Boaz, or rather, Zombie Boaz. Thank you very much for coming on again. Bye-bye.
See ya.
You can go to sleep now. Bye.
Yeah, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to sleep right here.
That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.